So we didn't have the camera running while we actually got this in place, but inside there's an aluminum block that sort of matches this one. We heated them to 150 degrees and put the 3 clamps on that you can see, and it is noticeably flatter back here. Time will tell if that stays flatter, but this is our first step. This is the T.J. Thompson bridge belly reducer system. But we're already thinking we're going to wind up doing a neck reset.
Yeah, I think so, because even if that were dead flat, the soundboard is ill-positioned for...
Yeah, when you put a straight edge across the fretboard, it winds up being pretty close to the soundboard right at the bridge. So that's an indication that the angle is just never going to be right.
But that, you know, that's not unusual on the Triple O Martin that we restored. We had a very similar problem. The soundboard was irregular, but ultimately we couldn't adjust the soundboard enough to be able to avoid a neck reset in order to give the string action a chance to be where it needed to be. So it's not surprising.
No, not at all. And a lot of it's not just this bellying back here, but there's an actual dip down from the waist to the upper bout, and that's causing the neck to rotate downward.
Mm-hmm. Just a lot of loads on a thin guitar.
Fire away.
So we removed the metal plates that we had used to flatten this area.
After a week.
After a week.
5 days. Anyway.
Yeah. And holy moly, definitely flatter. However, what's going to keep the guitar from distorting when we put the new, when we replace the bridge and string the instrument back up? And we're pretty sure nothing is the answer to that. So we've talked about some things that we might be able to do to reduce that. One would be to use a bigger bridge.
A thicker bridge plate.
Yes, thicker bridge plate, and you talked about maybe making a new bridge.
Oh yeah, because after I took the bridge off and looked at it, it had clearly been shaved down at some point.
Right.
So that was to compensate for the fact that the belly was bowing, and in shaving the bridge down, you not only lose the ability to raise the saddle, but you weaken the bridge.
Right.
You know, if it started out as 3/8 of an inch thick and it was now a 1/4 inch thick, it's just not as strong.
So we've talked about several different strategies for trying to strengthen the under the soundboard. Of course, one he's already mentioned is a new bridge plate. We've talked about maybe doing some bracing in this area to keep that twisting in the upper section above the bridge from occurring quite so much. And several ideas about how we might be able to establish some additional bracing supports along the soundboard. But before we do any of that, it's probably smart for us to come up with a diagram of what's going on with the soundboard so that we can start thinking about where we can put things realistically, how we're going to do that. So what we're going to do, what we've done so far, is...
Before we got the notion to run
actually turn the camera on, right, is we drew out traced the outline of the instrument, and Gary established the sound hole and the center line. And now we're going to use our gauging tool to not so much measure the thickness of the instrument, but to establish the position of the braces inside of the instrument. Then we can start thinking about how we can lay up additional bracing in order to keep the soundboard from distorting when we reload it. So that's sort of where we're at, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We talked last time about the possibility of adding another bridge plate on top of the one that's there, just to beef that up, or putting a little brace behind the bridge plate. But we're gonna think about that a little more before we actually do anything, because maybe that's not the best way of
Solving it.
stiffening this permanently.
Right. When the instrument distorts, it distorted really pretty severely. I'm pointing to the right place, aren't I?
Yeah.
It really distorted pretty significantly around here, and it's outside of the realm of the bridge plate. So even if we put a thicker bridge plate, which I think is a good idea, but even if we put a thicker bridge plate on it, it's not going to stop the instrument from twisting beyond the bridge plate.
Right.
So we need to come up with some way of keeping it from twisting. And I think it would. We've put some mirrors inside of the guitar and looked at it to get an idea about what we're dealing with. But I think it would be from I'm not very three-dimensional kind of a thinker. For me, it would help if we could draw out a picture and say, well, this is where the bridge is, and this is where the bridge plate goes, and then that way we can figure out what we might want to do to try to stiffen it up.
So let me get a ruler and the magnetometer thing, and we'll start drawing them out.
Yep.
We figured out where the X is in relation to the center line and the sound hole. So now I'm using this micrometer to just get a measurement of the thickness of the X brace. We'll include that in our plan. And it looks like it is 0.305 inches. So beefy brace. So I'll put that on this drawing now. We'll go on to something else. So we're using this probe not as a thickness measurement, but just to track where the steel ball is inside of the guitar, and it's allowing us to map out where the braces are. We've established obviously the X brace and the finger braces, and right now we're working on doing the 3 transverse braces. It's actually, when you consider, like, a 6-string guitar only has 2 finger braces and 2 transverse braces in the Martin pattern. This is a pretty beefy pattern, but it's been 50 years that it's been under a lot of strain.
Right, and again, the soundboard itself is quite thin,
Yes.
and I think that may be a factor as well.
I think so. Okay, so figure out where the start of the second transverse brace is.
We're currently,
Let's see if we can get the camera in there. Okay.
so the ball bearing is at the lower point of the second transverse where it butts up against the X brace.
Yep, I see that. There's our rough blueprint of what the soundboard looks like.